Hey everybody, how's it going? Doing a quick stream check here, make sure everything's okay. Quick check, quick check. Where are we going here? Sorry about this. I'm doing just a quick check to make sure everything is good. Need to hear the audio so I know that it's going through okay. Yeah, it sounds like it's okay. Cool. Let me do this stream just a quick and dirty setup here. Alrighty, let's go. Oh, let's go back to here, over here. Sorry, I should have all this set up already. Wasting stream time, always good. Okay, so quick agenda here. I'll also put some of these in the note. Doesn't show up too well on the actual computer screen. Maybe it will show up okay here. Yeah, normally I do this from a webcam on the phone. There you go. So we're going to go over NASA tour website, 3D solar system tour. Talk about the eclipse that we just had recently. Talk about some more iOS apps that I didn't get to show. And next time I'll do some process images from the last telescope live stream. So that's my low tech thingamajig there. And so now let's go to the solar eclipse discussion. Let's move my chat over here so I can see what's going on with the chat. Okay. So for those who didn't know, we had a in North America, we had a annular solar eclipse. So not a total solar eclipse. The moon is further away than usual for a total solar eclipse. So you get a ring of sunlight around the moon. Doesn't completely cover up the moon, where you just get the prominences on the edge and stuff like that. So it was still about 5 minutes of annularity. I almost said totality. It's annularity. um, for the full the if you're in the sweet spot. So it was October 14th, which was Saturday morning, and this is NASA's site, so it's a good thing to go visit. If like I said, I'll put links in the notes afterward, but I also quickly flashed it on my agenda. There was the URLs in my agenda on the screen. So anyway, so this will show what happened. Just give you an idea what happened. So it was if I turn on all the features here, even the penumbra. So umbra is the sweet spot, the totality, and penumbra is everything outside of that. So similar terminology is used for sunspots. The darker center of the sunspot is the umbra, and the hazier, lighter gray color perceived as gray to our eyes, is called the penumbra. So just so the terminology gets used in a few different places. But this page is nice. It shows the tracking pretty well. Just quickly verify that it's showing up okay on the stream. I think it's a little bit. I'm gonna have to turn the brightness down on the screen a tad. Jump back. Yeah, it looks shows better. Okay. Anyway, so this belt here shows the path of annularity. So people saw it all the way from Oregon all the way down to Texas. So I have friends that took pictures from Texas, um, that some have equipment, some don't. So if you didn't have filters or you didn't have a clever way to make a pinhole camera image, you could actually do kind of what I did because I forgot to get my solar filters ready. It kind of caught me off guard. I was tracking it for a couple months and I just forgot to put on my calendar. So I didn't have my solar filters ready or my scope set up to take any pictures. It was super cloudy here anyway. And I'll show here real quick some pictures from people I know who post them online. This is a friend Ace Dorcas, Scott Dixon. So he shot this, and obviously this is from like an iPhone or something like that. It's a pretty small image, but you can see we just got a piece of it. Almost looks like a lunar phase on on a cloudy, foggy night. So we got a chunk taken out of it. At the most, that was the most we got, and you'd see it graze from going across. So big chunk taken out, but started out with a little chunk and ended with a little chunk, and then it was gone. So another shot he got shows the clouds better. You can see how cloudy it was. So anyway, if you have the proper filters and you have a nice scope setup, clouds doesn't matter because the image is so bright and you're filtering out certain wavelengths that it's going to get a decent image. But I didn't, so it's okay. But other people did, and their videos all over the place. I got one many years ago when I used to work in Palo Alto. That was at the salt marsh. It was cool. So anyway, we got that, and then professional photo taken by a friend in the astronomy club that I'm in, Rick Baldridge, took this, which looks fake, but this is actually when you get a proper annularity on the sweet spot at the right time, with the right exposure. This is what you get. The moon just covers up that much, and then you have this nice ring. And because the entire sun is not blocked, you can't see the prominences that you would normally see at totality from a total that normally you can't see any other time without special filters. I mean, I remember using my binoculars down on the Baja total solar eclipse in '91, and you could see prominences, all that kind of stuff without special filters because when it's total, you just get complete coverage of the sun and the prominences coming off. Normally, you have to use hydrogen alpha filters to see that, which he would have had to do here, but he was just trying to get the image with basically with visible light and not the specific H alpha range of I think it's 0.5 angstroms is the usual measurement, or even smaller for really good H alpha images. They're kind of a reddish color to them. So that's what a proper path of full annularity picture looks like by someone who has experience and stuff. So it's kind of fun. Anyway, the website shows the path he was in Arizona, I believe, for part of it. Was it Arizona? Yeah, so here's Roswell. Uh, so yeah, he went to do some other stuff in Arizona, but he was on the path to get those pictures. Um, But what's fun is if you zoom out here, you can see the penumbra, how far it goes out. So this is why all of North America can at least get a partial, because we were in the penumbral zone. So being in the Bay Area, California, I got a similar view to what my friend Scott showed you. The first picture I showed you was like a Pac-Man, a bite taken out of it. So some people don't want this. It's distracting. You can turn off the penumbra and just deal with the actual eclipse, proper eclipse itself. And so yeah, that shows the whole path. And so one of my friends in Texas took some pinhole camera images. And if you guys don't know about oh hey Synchrotron, how's it going? Sorry I missed your chat. If you guys don't know about pinhole cameras, it's the concept of if you do photography and you stop down your lens to the smallest possible aperture, like f/22, or in some lenses even smaller, your depth of field opens way up, so you don't have to focus as much to cover a wide depth of image. So if someone's standing in front of somebody else in front of a building, you could potentially get them all in focus with a very small aperture, which gives you a massive depth of field. Well, a pinhole, the smallest hole you can make with a pin or a very small nail in a piece of aluminum foil or a piece of paper that blocks the light would project an image on the other side that is in focus from something as far away as the sun. So it's an old-fashioned way of taking pictures of something that has a lot of light, in this case, the sun. And you know, the nice thing is the paper that's blocking the light creates a nice shadow. You often put it like a box to make it really dark, and so all you see is the projected image at the back of the shoebox, um, with pretty sharp image, but it's small. There's no lens, so it's going to be a very small image. You can play with the distance of your screen and your pinhole, but at some point the image has to be incredibly bright, like the sun, in order to get an image. Anyway, so I tried that for a little bit, but it was so cloudy, it wasn't bright enough to get a good pinhole image. So eventually, near the end of the eclipse, I went outside and used leaves in the trees. I did this for the eclipse in Baja as well, when I was taking some proper photos of the total eclipse and some of the phenomena around it, like shadow bands and other things like that. Um, uh, you could stand by the trees and see the partial showing through the gaps, the tiny gaps in the leaves of the trees, and reflecting tiny little solar eclipses on the ground. All the spots of the sun on the ground are these tiny little views of the solar eclipse because of the pinhole camera effect. So my friend in Texas took some shots like that. Looked pretty decent. I took a few that look okay, but the trees in this area I walked around, the gaps weren't that great. So the pinhole was a little bit soft. So it didn't create really nice, crisp images. So I'm not bothering to share them on the stream because they really weren't much to look at. You could see the effect, but it's not super obvious. So I just didn't want to go over that here because it's it's kind of nebulous. But you get the idea. So the pinhole camera effect is very cool. So anyway, this website will show you, and again, I'll put this in the links. You guys can revisit this if you haven't seen it, if you're interested. You can turn various features on and off, zoom in and out to see exactly where the cities got hit and stuff if you're curious. And of course, in the last week or so, there've been tons of images, video, pictures, and stuff shared online. So you can't miss it. It's all over the place, even on this NASA website. So that's the eclipse, just in a nutshell. The next annular, I think, is in another 10 or 15 years. I have to double check the dates. I think it's in Alaska. So this was one of those that was very convenient to get to, or can at least see part of it. Now in Alaska, I'm sure we'll be able to see the partial from here as well. But again, won't be able to see the annular thing. Total is the most spectacular, but annular is pretty cool as well. The total solar eclipse I saw in Baja was about 7 minutes, which is really long for an eclipse. This annular was about 5 minutes at the best spot. Normally they're much shorter. Some guys have gone all the way to like Bali or Fiji or the various other remote parts of the world to get a 3 or 4 minute totality. And you're hoping the weather holds up because you plan your whole trip on this. The people who went to Baja got to see a nice eclipse, so we were happy. The people who decided to go to Hawaii for a morning eclipse ended up having low clouds in the morning. So part of their eclipse was ruined, at least from a visual point of view. If you're a diehard with the filters and cameras and stuff, special telescopes and stuff, you would have seen it no problem. For people who often just want to go watch it with their eclipse glasses and stuff in the clouds, it's not as spectacular. Um, but so people kind of bummed out who went on those little trips to any place other than like Baja and around Mexico. Um, so anyway, so that is the eclipse information. I'll quickly go over this other cool NASA site, which is the called NASA's Eyes. Let me just verify that this shows up okay on this camera because this web camera is kind of funky. Just let it update. Okay, looks okay. All right. So this site's been up for quite a while. You keep adding new stuff to it. You can cruise through entire sections of the solar system. You can go through just the asteroids. You can go through just the Earth. They have some stuff on exoplanets now. All kinds of fun stuff. There's a special Mars one with all the new rover information. So just for example, this ion asteroids is kind of interesting because you guys probably never looked at this before. And the apps I've shown you before that have cool solar system graphics don't really have all the cool asteroids in them. So they start with a little project, then you scroll down, you get a nice website with look at all the dots of just so many damn asteroids that they're tracking now. It's crazy. So, and as you probably know already, most of them are confined to the asteroid belt. Let me zoom in here a little bit. So the area between Mars and Jupiter, roughly, is the asteroid belt, where a majority of them are concentrated. But there are wandering asteroids that have wide, like to see this arc right here. They're ones that have really different periods and different pathways through the solar system. The ones that go past Earth into like Venus, I think they go into Venus's orbit, are called Trojan asteroids. And I forgot what the ones are called the other direction that go uh, past the asteroid belt toward Jupiter with the weird orbits. But in general, a lot of them are confined, especially the really large ones. Thank goodness are confined to the asteroid belt because you don't want to have those crash into us. That would be very bad. So this gives you a nice little quick view of some of these guys, and you can just click on missions. So if I go back, ion asteroids. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing, I think. Let me do this again. I did this before and I had to write. There's a nice little site to view asteroid watch, learn. It was an actual list of missions. Okay, here we go. So you can click on different asteroids and they give you some details on them. And I think most of them you can visit. You just zoom, 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 zoom. That's not it. There. What did I click on? There. This guy. Zoom. Oh, I see. I'm still clicked on Earth as my center. You have to kind of offset it a little bit. I had this. This is one of those great demos where I had it working nicely before, and now I can't get it to do exactly what I wanted. I can't go past Earth. All right, let me go back to learn. Is it close approaches? Oh, that was it. Missions. Hold on, I screwed up. Oh, here we go. Here's one that's got some detail. Didymos. Nice detail there. Look at that. So if this had any missions associated with it, it would talk about it here. Talks about the discovery, orbital path. This one takes over 2 years to do an orbital path. Close approach. So it got not that close to us. zero point zero 0.07 AU from Earth on 2022. So you see the graphics are quite nice here. So this website's full of this stuff. Let me go back to the asteroid watch. And I thought there was a mission. Here you go, missions. And you scroll. Here we go. This is what I was in before. So like this is the history of the mission. So this actually shows the ship, the little craft that that cruised by. You can zoom way in here and see the probe we sent out in pretty damn good detail. Look at that. It's rendered quite well. We sent out to Eros way back in 2001. And Eros is an interesting, long, kind of cigar-shaped asteroid. Or more like a dog turd, I guess is a better description. Um, so anyway, you can rotate it all around Eros, zoom in on Eros, see the craft, and go through all these different missions. This is like a timeline of different missions. And so this is the Dawn mission to Dawn's been rearranged. Vesta. So this one you actually see in the telescope quite well. Vesta is a very large, bright asteroid. There's a Ceres, Pallas, Vesta, and here's a nice shot of the craft here that was cruising around Vesta back in 2012. Looks like 2001 until 2012. So yeah, so you can go through all the common asteroids as well as a lot of the special ones that they went to. And this, of course, is on, so you can see it's moving because it's simulating its actual rotation and revolution. So that's pretty cool site. And that's just the asteroid section. You can do it for all the planets, all the moons. Um, like I said, exoplanets are in there now. The solar system stuff. It's kind of wild that this is all there. I don't think most of the public knows this is there. This is, your tax dollars have paid for this. They worked very hard to put this stuff out there, and I think the average person has no idea it's actually there. Yeah, it's pretty cool, huh, Synchrotron? That's interesting. Um, I just learned about it maybe 3, 4 years ago. It was much less stuff in there. It didn't have all the missions. It had, like, the moon, it had all the major planets. It had some of the moons of the planets, and they just keep building and building and adding more stuff. So now exoplanets are in there and stuff that's pretty clever. So that was pretty fun. So that is the Eyes On section of the NASA site. And again, I'll put the link in the in the description later. But you saw it when I held up the little um, thing here. So now I have to switch back to stream view so I can see what I'm sharing. And I'm going to go to some apps now. So quick refresher from before. I changed the landing page to show Earth in a kind of quote unquote live view. It shows clouds if there's actual cloud cover. They're not accurate real-time 3D clouds for now. You need a special app that tracks the weather for that. But at least it gives me a rough impression. Like there's always a little bit of a swirl here just so it's showing that there's an atmosphere basically. But I've got pretty good at knowing when I look at it if there's some significant darkening to the clouds. I go, oh, it must be clouds outside. I go look outside, and sure enough, there are clouds. So it's a quick and dirty way for me to know before I go open a bunch of other apps and go look outside if I'm even interested in going out to observe that given night. You know. So let me just start with some apps here. One thing I didn't show before, which is very handy for any kind of photography, even taking astrophotos at night with a tripod or bolted to your eyepiece of your telescope, is this app called DSLR Camera. You guys can see the name there at the top. This thing will focus, and it's got a little colorful icon there. Anyway, so it's got full control of your camera on your phone, just like a DSLR. I'm in manual mode right now, so I have ISO control here, shutter speed control here, autofocus, manual focus. So if I do manual focus, I just scroll to get my focus. I also have white balance control. I have control over obviously which camera I'm using. Um, and there's some program modes and stuff in here. One of the cool things I noticed about this compared to when I used it on my original phone is these new phones have three lenses. See the little box down at the bottom here? And I can quickly cycle through the individual lenses. It'll even tell me what I'm using because I don't know the names of the lenses. That's the telecamera lens. That's the wide camera lens. That's the ultra wide camera lens. So you can cycle between them all and decide what you want to shoot with. Whereas the standard camera app kind of does it for you. It's all automated for the most part. And I don't know. So just having all these features here are really clever, as well as of course, your timer and you've got a flash control. One of the cool things about the app is there's a stabilizing function you can turn on and off. Burst mode. There's you can quickly pick your resolution, image format. Even does Pro RAW mode, so I can switch into a Pro RAW mode for crazy editing in Photoshop or something like that. If you want to get really deep with your images. Um, Premiere is automatic, so I turn that off because it's annoying when it keeps showing me, and I want to take a series of pictures. I just turn Premiere off because it's just I don't want to see every single picture I take. I need to take a whole bunch sometimes before an event is over. So I turn the Premiere off. So that's DSLR cam or camera. And I need to go look up all the prices on these. I think it was either really cheap or there's a free version that you can upgrade features. Most of these are like $2 to $3 maybe. But I'll have to go back through even the previous stream. I was going to go back through and add some custom links as well as the pricing just to make it easier for everybody. So I started to edit the chapters on the previous stream with the apps, and so I'm going to go finish that, and I'll do that to this one as well. So that's DSLR app. I'm going through not in order here, just kind of what's next on the list here, and what's open on my phone. This one's fun, called Satellite Tracker. I don't think I showed this one before. It'll show you the where it's passing within your view, and it shows a little graph. It actually shows what it looks like. So in this case, this is the space station, ISS. So you can actually get a nice 3D model of ISS. Zoom in, look at it, see its you know current position. Oops, this one has ads, unfortunately, because I didn't buy it. So hold on, let me skip this dumb ad here. Got to count down, and then you can skip the ad. This one shows the nighttime, daytime clock thing on the Earth. So it not only shows it where it is on the Earth right now, but also where it's light and dark. So you can track live where ISIS is. My little marker shows where I am. I'm in the dark. And here it is right here over Australia, looks like. Let's drop the brightness down. It's too bright. So there it is, little dot over Australia moving slowly across. So it gives you a nice little globe to look at. There's my location on North America. And again, there's back to the view of that. And then you get this view, which is a night sky view showing um, where it is currently. And using the gyro and the compass and all that stuff, so it knows where you are. So that's that one. It's called Satellite Tracker. See that name there, Satellite Tracker. So that's kind of fun. I have a few satellite tracking apps. This one, I think, only does ISS. Let me check. Yeah, if you click on the little drop down, you get like the dates of the passes. Also shows who's on board currently, where they're from, what country they're from, and yeah, it's kind of a cool little app. There's some other features in here too. I think it's only ISS right now. Yeah, and there's another add-on you can do to add more features. So, so there's that. Then we have. I got a bunch of dumb apps that are open here. I always have too many apps open. Boom, 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 boom. Not that one. Not that one. You guys have already seen this one, Sky Safari Pro. This is one of my favorites because this one actually had. I actually simulated the solar eclipse on here. So before I went outside, I knew what I was going to see at that moment because it had the moon crossing over the sun's disk. So I knew exactly what view before I tried to brave the clouds with my pinhole camera, what I was trying to find. So and just simulate the whole thing. So it's kind of fun. And I can also now simulate the next annular eclipse from Alaska if I want to. So it's a really fun app. Typical. I've shown this before. Typical astronomy app with all your goodies, but has all kinds of simulations on it and other browsers on it, and also can hook to your scope and control your scope if you have a telescope. So I showed that one. What's we got here? Oh, what's the news there? This is one I showed before. I'll show a couple of these real quick. Um, this one's called Good to Stargaze. and tonight it's saying it's not good because there's some various conditions. It's it's there's a good um, so it's showing the yeah, so there's little icons for the different weather summaries, but it shows you so the sun is currently down, but it shows you the rough visibility from where you are, uh, wind speed, scene conditions, like a certain measurement of haziness or turbulence, transparency, cloud cover. There's a little bit of clouds out there right now. Planets visible, but you know, light pollution level, which is pretty accurate but not perfect. Moon phase. So if you're looking for faint stuff, you don't want to go out when the moon is looking pretty good. So good to stargaze is a pretty good app. I showed this before. It has other stuff too. You can do planning with a chart. You can do all kinds of graphs for stuff. It'll even show you the local light pollution. It'll show you have all kinds of settings as usual to turn things on and off. So that's good to stargaze. Um, also have another one similar to it that I use quite a bit called Sky Live. This one's more quick and dirty. It just says, where you are, the date, and in this case, I think then this is not updated because the other one said bad and this one says good. So I need to refresh it or quit it and restart it. But it'll tell you like roughly based on several parameters percentage of good scene conditions, and you can turn on a few features. And it's also the same guys who make the Star Walk, those little apps where you can like track the sky with the gyro and the accelerometer to do like almost like an augmented reality view of the sky outside, which is kind of fun. So it's a quick one. It's just called Sky Live. Quick and dirty check if you're going to go do some observing or do some photography or whatever. You want to make sure that the sky looks good. So those are refreshers. I showed those before. What else do I have here? It's nice. This one called Solar System Sim. There's a little cat. Look at that. So this one's interesting. Gives you basically a nice rendered. See the prominence is coming off the sun. It's not to scale, obviously, with the in this view, but um, you can zoom way the hell out, and you can go. Let's see, start. So it gives you the nice orrery, everything rotating around the sun. There's the asteroid belt. Into Jupiter. So all the different planets doing their things, and some major other objects being tracked. Let's see what some of those are. Does it show me? Yeah, so there's some asteroids being tracked. Different asteroids. Zephyr, Didymos, Zephyr again. It's all kinds of stuff. And you can zoom. Can you go? Yeah, you can zoom past to the Oort cloud, where basically the comets are coming in and out of the Oort cloud, and keep going further out. There's Proxima Centauri, and further out, and further out, and further out. and all the other things start coalescing till you get to our actual galaxy view. Is the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, further out, and that's kind of where it stops. I think you have to probably buy more to get further out. Well, maybe not. 64x out. Oh, 64 times. Sorry, that's times the speed. Okay. So now go back and zoom all the way in again. So Mercury's cruising because I have the speed turned way up. So yeah, it's a nice little simulator. You have again, this one's I didn't I didn't pay for a full version, so I got to run these dumb ads occasionally. It's just part of the deal of having these kind of apps if you don't buy them outright. Um, what's this one doing? So you can turn on. It shows you the stars that are the same mass as the sun. They're being highlighted. You can choose the radius and the velocity of the stars, and turn on various features to track other stars in the surrounding the area. Um, yeah, so it's just a bunch of fun little things in here. Cancel. Um, change graphics. Change physics settings. You can build your own solar system. It's kind of fun. So you can do less physics accuracy, more frames per second, so everything is more dynamic and quicker. You can remove all the asteroids, comets, and moons to make it simulate better if your phone starts to choke, I guess. But pretty cool for a little, standalone app that doing a few things that some other apps don't do. There's a little rocket thing where you can go to different places. Oh, see, now it's going to the ads again. Come on, give me the choice to quit. Just trying to get me to play with these game things. But you get the idea. That's Solar System Sim, it's called. So let's go to another one. All right. This one's pretty cool. Called Voyager. It's okay if you don't have an iPhone. They have some of these for Android too, I'm sure, or iPad, or you know. These are just nice to have things. Because if it's cloudy, or you don't have a telescope, or you're not by your computer, or you're out and about bored waiting for a dental appointment, or bored at work for a while or lunchtime, just pop these things out and just have some fun. So this one's the Voyager Grand Tour. App is actually called Voyager, and, and you can nice little tumbling view of the probe there, 1977, and you can go through and do the grand tour of all the stuff it saw. So you have here's the grand tour play, and it will go and it'll show all the different stuff that the Voyager probe went by. You can actually simulate it shooting off target. It actually simulates the launching of the probe and stuff. So it's kind of fun. You can goof around with it as well as showing all the stuff that it actually went to go visit. Sorry, that wasn't the best demo, but when I first played with it, I didn't hit that launch thing. Um, Comet is interesting. This is for the recent Comet Nishimura that came by. Has a 400 something year period, so much longer than Halley. So right now, if you want to find it, it'll tell you where to find it. So you go, you know, poke around, look for it. Right now, it's kind of near the sun still, and because it's been there for a while, it's impossible to see because it's in the time view of the sky or morning, early morning, and it also means because it's closer to the sun, it's burning off a lot of its material, which means it's going to be less material and going to get dimmer over time. So I barely missed seeing it. I went up one night, which is probably the last night you could probably barely see it up in the mountains nearby because it was a morning object. And I tried like hell to find it, and I probably should have tried the night before when the sun was going down. It probably would have been a little bit easier because in the morning glow, pre-sunrise, the sky was pretty washed out, and I couldn't find it. But it's a nice little app that they made just to find this comet. And if you want to learn more about the comet, um, it gives you some interesting information about the comet. It also launches this exoplanet, which I already showed you. It's the same guy made exoplanets, looks like. So I showed you that with exoplanets before. That one's really fun. That one you can zoom all the way out to the cosmic background radiation layer, like as far back as we can analyze with probes right now. Another one called Observer Pro. So if you get into astronomy, if you're not into it, and oh, hey Neil, how's it going? If you get into astronomy, either casually or seriously, and you want to start tracking things to look at, taking notes, getting ideas for stuff, apps like this are kind of fun because you can plan a series of evenings before you even go outside. So you get the catalogs. So this has all the standard like Messier catalog, the Caldwell objects, which are a combination of NGC and Messier. NGC is the new general catalog. It's been on forever, probably 100 years, maybe a little less. By I think it's by Bayer. His name was Bayer. Anyways, IC catalog, and you can also do it by common names, or you can do it by type. So I'm always a galaxy nut, so I'm always looking for galaxies. This will show you at a glance all the galaxies in this list by galaxies. Looks like alphabetically, and it'll show you when it's visible, and it even gives you a nice little picture of the galaxy you can zoom in on. So let's pick one. There's a nice picture somebody took of it. Visibility, visibility in a 24-hour, visibility by month and by year. And so you can go through and you can see all these different objects. So, like for example, one of my favorites is M104. It's a Barrow Galaxy, and this one doesn't have Missy in it. So I'm gonna cheat, go back to Missy and go back to M104. And you can see, depending on the season, which constellations they're in, they're visible, not visible. Here's M104. Look at that beauty. Looks like a little Mexican hat. Turn the brightness down so you can see it better. I love that. You can see the nice dust lane going through the center. Awesome. So it's near Virgo. It's just south of Virgo, above Corvus the Crow, if I remember correctly. And so there's the visibility of this guy. Unfortunately, to see the picture, I made this too dim, so you can't see that so well. So the color bars in there. So you can quickly track which objects you like, which objects you want to revisit, the names of it, the times to see it. There's some other detail too. Uh, I thought, no, thought I had some more details based on the objects. But this is great for just finding stuff. So here's an observing list. It's blank right now. I didn't make one. And your history, what you at, and sites. Track your sites with GPS and weather. It's a nice little weather map so you can keep an eye on places you're going to go to. So it kind of all puts into one place. The other apps I showed you are basically planetarium type apps or simulation apps. They don't have this kind of detail on them for planning a night of observing or photography or whatever. There are more detailed apps for photography specifically, but this one can also be used for photography. And let's see some of the settings in here. So you can set your limit magnitude, max and min magnitudes. Um, some other settings there too. There's your night mode. So it makes it red so you don't blast your eyes, make your pupil down. So you can use it when it's dark. So yeah, Observer Pro, nice little app. And I think there's a cheaper one, Observer Free, and this is probably like, I don't know, $10 or something like that, maybe less. I have to again, I'll at the end, when I post this and I go put short links for all the apps, I'll go find the prices or free or whatever it is, just so you not have to look every single thing up. What else we got here? Star types. This is kind of fun. So this is interesting. If you guys don't know about it's called the main sequence that stars live on. So they use a mnemonic device. These letters OBAFGK, blah blah blah. So it's "Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me" is the way you remember that. And so our sun is basically a G-type star. So it's kind of in the middle of the main sequence, heading more toward the other end. And it even says right here, look, our class is a G2 because this G and then there are levels within G. So our sun's a G2 star. And so that just gives you a real basic how you classify them, example of our sun. And then you go into here and show you different examples of different types. So if you want to see a B type, that's this star. If you want to see an O type, it's this star. And they should show you the labels here. This is kind of interesting, the distribution of the star types. And so you have this is the main sequence, and there are plenty of other star distributions off the main sequence. And so it's a multi-axis thing. Gives you color, it gives you absolute magnitude and luminosity. And that's when it gets kind of crazy because magnitude's like a logarithmic scale. So um, and it's kind of funny because, for example, the limiting magnitude of your eyes at a good age and condition is maybe 7 outside with no light pollution. Now, with all the light pollution we have, you're lucky if you can see magnitude lower the number, the brighter it is. So in our area, it's like 4, 5, uh, you know, um, light pollution. Um, the sun is like -23. Jupiter and Saturn often hover in the -2, -1, depending on the time of year and how close they are and all that kind of stuff to the sun. But yeah, it's interesting stuff. But this one, I could have sworn this one actually said the name of the star. I guess it doesn't. It's just telling you the types and then the temperature. So temperatures in Kelvin, and just a fun little. Again, other apps don't do this that I've seen. This is the only one. There are plenty of websites that have all the charts and all the lists and all that kind of stuff. That's more nerdy. This is more kind of a fun, colorful interface to show this. Um, so that's why I wanted to show it to you. It's something most people don't care about. It's kind of esoteric, but it is important because it does show that, as everyone knows, everything has a lifespan, even the star. And our sun is, in about another 4.5, 5 billion years, is going to lose its fight with gravity. Fuel is going to start to burn out as lighter elements are fused more and more to heavier elements. Less energy is being released, and gravity is going to compress it more. And at some point, it's going to compress to the point where it creates a huge burst of energy as it shrinks, and it's going to blow up to a red giant, kind of like Betelgeuse in Orion, which is a nice reddish star. People say Beetlejuice. It's actually Betelgeuse, but it doesn't matter. Tomato, tomato. But um, the anyway, so it's going to swallow up Earth and probably Mars's orbit. These are all estimates, obviously, because it's future stuff based on other star measurements. And then once it starts to shrink again, burning further fuels down the periodic table of the elements into heavier elements. And again, losing more fuel. It's going to shrink down, and as it shrinks down another very pretty quick amount, it's going to expel its outer layer of gas into a halo called a planetary nebula, like the Ring Nebula, the Dumbbell Nebula. Dumbbell Nebula is M27, Ring Nebula is M57. There are a whole bunch of these out there you can see in the telescope quite well, from similar stars that went through the same thing. And what's left in the center of the planetary nebula is a white dwarf, a shadow of its former self. It's not dead. It's not like a supernova where it just goes bam, explodes, and you're left with this like neutron star, which is super, super massive, but hard to perceive without certain kinds of equipment. Um, and or just, knowing what you're looking for basically. And so it's a really interesting thing about, everything dies or everything goes through sunset times where it's not totally dead, but it's close to being dead. Eventually, the stars do burn out. Material gets recollected into the whatever local nebula is nearby and coalesces into new stars. Like the Pleiades is a stellar nursery. That's why it's full of these bright blue stars surrounded by gas. A lot of those have formed and are still forming around there. Or the Orion Nebula, which I showed on one of the streams a while back, which is kind of interesting because it has a really nice shape. It's not just a kind of uniform cloud that's reddish or bluish. It's this kind of mixture of blue and purple and these kind of like arcs of gas going around stuff. It's pretty dramatic. Like I said in the beginning of the stream, I have some images to process from last time. I haven't had a chance to clean them up yet to show from the last stream. They weren't great images because they were just test images, but I could show some other stuff in another stream. So long-winded explanation. That's star types and a little app called Star Types. That's another one here that's pretty interesting. I think I showed this before. ISS Spotter. So again, shows me, shows the ISS, which is cruising actually, because not long ago it was over Australia, I think, and now it's over here. Unless this needs to be updated. So the app shows the basic map of the path. Um, I don't think it does much more than that. It's a really basic app. It's one of the first ones I got because it was easy to use, super basic, and just has a nice little map to use. Yeah, so that's ISS Spotter. This might have been free even. There's the name ISS Spotter there. So there's that one. So you want to look at the space station. Space Museum is fun. This one goes through all kinds of spacecraft. Here's Voyager 1, and they're all, navigable 3D images. You can basically zoom into various details, very highly detailed models of the craft. Even shows the disc there where they put the famous images and recordings for ETs to play. Samples of music from and speech from the world. I have a plaque of it on my home. So anyway, so that's shows you a sample of that, and then you can go through and you can go to different ones. So here's one called Ice from 1978, looks like. And again, you can cruise around and you can click on stuff and get mission parameters and stuff. This is more of just a kind of a best of. Here's Juno. It was a Jupiter orbiter from 2011. Akatsuki, Venus orbiter, the Japanese put up, looks like. With a beautiful gold foil on there. It's Dawn. This one I mentioned earlier in the looking at the asteroid viewer on the NASA website. Launched in 2007. New Horizons was talked about for quite a while. Launched in 2006. Hayabusa, I remember this one. Was to study asteroid. This one actually was to pulled samples from an asteroid. I forgot which asteroid. I have to go into the details to figure it out here, but Kepler, of course, everyone knows that. It's one of the telescopes they put up there. Stereo A, solar observation. Interesting. MRO, Mars Orbiter. And then looks like the company that made this also made Solar Walk or made a deal with the Solar Walk company to show this in Solar Walk. We'll try that real quick. Let's see if that works. So I have Solar Walk. Don't know. Yeah. It's going to go zoom in. And there's the sun. Okay. I don't want pre. Do I restore? I don't think I have Premiere Access. TikTok. Oh, it's giving me ads now because I didn't pay for it. It's the free version. It's a really cool app, though. It also has the gyro kind of AR, follow the sky kind of thing if you want. And I've seen one of these had one of the other ones I have has the space vehicles in it as well, space probes and all that stuff. So that app was trying to tie me to this, but I don't have the full version to do that. But it's cool that they do that if you want to do that. What other one? I have a few more to show, not too many more. One's called Astronomy Events. Just show you what it looks like here. There's the title, Astronomy Events. And there you go. There's the current events. So the Orionid meteor shower is starting, looks like soon. Yeah, the 21st. So if you want to see the Orionids, they've been good before. Not as good as the Leonids or the Perseids. And if you know meteor showers, they have a thing called the radiant. And because at the time we enter the path of the comet producing the meteor shower, the leading edge of at the time is usually the constellation they call the radiant. So it looks like uh, the meteors seem to originate from that rough constellation area of the sky, going different directions. So it's called the radiant. So in this case, it would be Orion. And I don't remember the last time I looked at Orion did shower, but had some nice ones before. Occasionally get these really interesting ones. I think it was more Leonids than the Orionids, but these really cool meteors called bolides, where it's a good sizable chunk compared to like the little sand grains you often get that create a lot of the meteor. They're often very, very small objects to make the meteors burn up in the atmosphere. But a bolide is like a bigger chunk that actually breaks down at various levels. So you not only get a streak, but you get the like a pop, 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 pop kind of thing, or it glows really brightly and then kind of fades out. So they kind of put on a light show. It's kind of fun. Instead of just a streak, you get quite an interesting view from that. It's been a while. Sorry, you got to put on chat here. I've been behind here. Chat about remotely controlling telescope and oh, cool. Yeah, it'd be fun. If you have a much better setup than I do, that'd be cool. Mine's basically designed to be a mobile gig, so it's 8-inch astrograph, f5, f5, f4.5. I think it's f4.5, and with my camera bolted to it. It's a mirrorless camera, like a DSLR with the mirrorless, and it generally works pretty well. But it's not a massive aperture. Uh, it's not permanently set up. Obviously, I have to go set up every night when I take it somewhere. Find a good sky where I won't be bothered, light pollution, and car lights and corporate lights from different companies. And I had to watch out for sprinklers. Certain lawns I was using started to have sprinklers on late at night, so that'll get all wet. So I finally found a sidewalk area that's pretty good, not too far from where I live, but it's not ideal because there are some trees in the way. But some of the trees do block most of the light, so it works out pretty well. It's more just having a weird location on the sidewalk. Anyway, so this astronomy event shows, shows the, lunar phases. Here's Upcoming Venus is at greatest elongation, which is interesting. That's an interesting phenomenon. You guys should read about uh, elongation. Even the Anasazi Indians supposedly studied that. They had some buildings in Colorado that had a car, basically a portal window in their adobe walls facing a certain part of the sky, and they found markings and certain right in that spot. And the calculations they did and the analysis based on what they wrote on the wall was they were measuring elongation events of, I think of the sun. I have to double check, it's been a long time, but it's an unusual phenomenon, most people don't know anything about it for anything, whether it's Venus or whatever, but pretty cool that the Anasazi were doing that, like, 1,000 years ago. And it talked about, Saturn is close to the moon, so you get this kind of conjunction activity. Moon's at perigee and Wednesday. I think it got a technical one here. Moon is at ascending node. So if you want to get real nerdy with the terminology, they have it in here. Partial lunar eclipse coming up. Jupiter's close to the moon. Jupiter at opposition, which means it's opposite the sun in our sky. So it's up all night and nice clear view. Uh, some more showers coming up. Yeah, so just all kinds of events. And some of these are tracked on the other apps I mentioned, but not all in one place like this. It's just quick access. And they also show, what's this? Looks like some articles here on various things. Crescent, waxing and waning crescents. General news. So actual events, general news about other astronomical things. And you can do alerts and you can turn some other goodies on here. So pretty fun little app, real basic astronomy events. Solar walk. Yeah, so here's the solar walk with ads. I already had that one on. And this one has the probes in it and stuff if you want to watch the probes. But also got to deal with the ads because I was too cheap to buy it. A few more here, I think. Ah, yeah, this one's pretty cool. It's called Cosmology. This is kind of like new age landing page. So when I first saw it, I thought, oh no, what is this app? But then it's kind of nice. So Milky Way, galaxy, solar system, cosmic microwave background radiation, and cosmic web. So if you go to Milky Way, it talks about various galactic components. It has these videos you can watch. Uh, Globular clusters, open clusters, nebulae, planetary nebula, all this kind of stuff I already mentioned. If you don't know what this stuff is or want to see good examples of it, like beautiful pictures and simulations, these nice little short videos give you some of that in a quickly digestible format. Here's a nice open cluster there, double open cluster. So that's Milky Way. And then you go to galaxies, one of my favorites. There's Andromeda, M31, M32, and NGC 205 in that little picture. Um, and what is a galaxy? Birth of a galaxy, death of a galaxy. So nice little videos in here explain some of that stuff. Solar system. This is fun if you don't know about scales. Um, check this out. These graphics in here are quite cool. These have been printed for years. Relative scales of the planets and other objects. So if you go, I think it's here. So yeah, this is Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune and Uranus, and we're these little tiny guys right here. Basically takes, roughly 3 Earths to cover the Great Red Spot on Jupiter. And so this is at the gas giant scale versus this other stuff. And now we're at the terrestrial planet scale and see how much bigger we are than Mars and way bigger than Mercury. Venus, almost the same. And then here's Sun compared to Jupiter and Saturn. And then they have a nice view of the Milky Way. And it shows the different spiral arms, which, you can see which member we're of. It explains it in here. Uh, and then nice shot of the things lined up. So yeah, this is a fun little app with a lot of graphics called Cosmology. I think did I skip something? Yeah, cosmic background radiation. This is cool. Microwave background radiation. So it talks about the observable universe, and that's kind of the limit of what we can see right now. And cosmic web, what is this? Yeah, this is talking about the large scale view of the galaxies, these giant formations, um, and galactic superclusters here, gravitational lensing. So all these little videos in this little app are pretty cool. I don't remember again. I'll put the prices in later. It might have been free because I think it just goes to YouTube videos, but it might be downloaded. A couple more here. This is a universal time clock that also shows the local sidereal time, which is star time versus our normal calendar time. So it shows universal time and then Greenwich local sidereal time and my local sidereal time for where I am right now. It's called LST clock. So most people don't care about that, but if you do happen to know where constellations are in the sky based on right ascension and declination, you know based on what time it is on LST, which constellation is visible without even going outside. So now with have all these apps that kind of do this for you, you don't need to go outside. You can explore the whole universe in your pocket or on your computer. But back when you didn't have all this handy, you just had charts, magazines, and books and stuff. A lot of people I knew were starting to learn local sidereal time so they know what's up at a given time when they go outside. They even sold a watch that you could buy that had sidereal time on it, which is kind of funny. Now it's esoteric, but they still make apps for it if you like that stuff. Um, so what else we got here? Got a couple more here, I think. Might have talked about this before. Astro weather and failed to get data. That's not good. Come on. Does it want Wi-Fi? Maybe I'll turn Wi-Fi on. Oh, there's also a windy app. That's kind of interesting. Tell me the windy app. I'll check that out later. Check out the winds. All right. Look at that one later. But it looks like it's made by the same guy who made this app, Astro Weather. So if I go to failed to get data, oh, interesting. Yeah, it's not showing it now. Hmm. Well, when it is working, it gives you a bunch of information about weather in the sky that affects your viewing conditions, kind of like some other apps I already showed. But it was cool when I first saw it, but now it looks like it's not working. So I'll have to revisit that one another time. And then this is another similar one called Astropheric instead of atmospheric, astropheric. And here you go, another kind of interesting apps show you the current weather for your location, cloud cover, temperatures, wind. So this one combines a lot of the stuff: wind, cloud, temperature. Looks like it has dew point even in it. I don't know. Might just be temperature and rain, precipitation, whatever. And a bunch of little things you can click on and stuff. So just again, a lot of little apps like this are kind of fun. Not necessary necessarily, which sounds funny when I say it that way, but they're interesting to play with, especially again if you're armchair astronomy, don't have a scope, or you're not currently looking at stuff, the weather's bad, um, or you're just tired of the same old stuff. You can explore and do some interesting things with apps. Let me go back to the chat here. Sorry, I'm behind on chat. Uh, cool. Yeah. Okay, Neil, that sounds cool. We could try a little remote session at one point, just off stream, do some stuff. I we had that set up for a while in our club, an astronomy club. We have a really nice site in the local Santa Cruz Mountains, just on the other side of the hill, facing Santa Cruz, Monterey. So that's the view from there. And it's on the other side of the hill, so the sky glow light pollution from San Jose and Silicon Valley in general is quite a bit lower. So if you have your overall horizon view and you have just so I can see my hands, and you have like the looking back towards San Jose from the mountains, the sky glow might be just a little bit above your view of the mountains. And everywhere else you look is pretty dark because the mountains are also helping to block the light pollution, as well as your slightly more remote location. So we have a 16-inch reflector up there, which came from NASA with its own little dome. I spent many, many late nights up there before I bought my own scope. We have a dome with a 28-inch reflector, which was acquired also from NASA, kind of a permanent loan thing. But because they didn't want to have permit fees and stuff to build a proper building for it, they built a pullover shed thing that's severely limited its movement, but still was usable for a while. I don't think they use it anymore, but we did look at it one night and looked at some cool stuff in it. Um, but it was really meant as of all things, like a weather related telescope. And I think at one point it had some kind of an accident where it got water in it because it was near the ocean, and they cleaned it out and gave it to us. And we may not even have it anymore in the club. I haven't kept up with it. And then they have a smaller dome that used to house a 12-inch Schmidt Cassegrain scope. It was quite nice, like a pro level Schmidt Cassegrain. And when they decided to redo the whole building, they mounted a computer access telescope up there that you could remotely connect from anywhere. and take images and cruise around and look at stuff from home. But again, that was many years ago, and I don't know if they even still have it or if it's limited access or if it's like you have to pay extra club dues to use it. I don't know. But this club is I've been in the club for over 30 years, and so much has changed. I can't keep up with all of it, you know. But interesting stuff though. I had access to some pretty cool instruments before I bought my own stuff. And so like for example, we had a hydrogen alpha filter by Daystar, really nice one. That's, it's a chunky thing. It's about like this big and it plugs into the 6-inch refractor that we had, piggybacked on a 16-inch reflector at Foothill College. And that was getting sub zero point 0.5 angstrom H alpha images, very, very clear, very, very clean. And I was at the time digiscoping before I even knew that was what it was called with film cameras, actually, not even digital cameras, holding the eye the lens over the eyepiece to get my H alpha pictures, and had some pretty good luck. Much better when digital cameras came out, but even with film cameras, you can kind of get the right film speed and the right settings and get some decent. And then they put a dedicated solar scope on that scope for a while. And I don't know what they did lately. I haven't kept up with that either. They used to do that every Saturday morning. You can go look at the sun and even take pictures and stuff. But I'm very close to getting my own H alpha scope, kind of a budget one, just to do some daytime streams because I do like solar stuff a lot too. And you can get them pretty cheap now, even though they're not super cheap, but they're cheap enough for me compared to like a pro. Like a pro level one starts 5 to 10 grand, like sub pro, and I'm looking much more in the below $2,000 range. Still a good chunk of change, but the image quality is decent, and they're very, very portable, and they don't need to be powered. They're passive H alpha filters. They use like a band rejection filter, and then a special Etalon that does the zero point 0.5 micron H alpha. And I've seen pictures from it. It looks pretty good. So it's good enough for me because all I have right now is white light filters, which just gives me sunspots and a nice orangey yellow view of the sun. Before I had all that, I did what's normally considered dangerous, but if you're careful with it, it's essentially projection. Use a really cheap department store telescope. Put the eyepiece in without the diagonal prism in there. Shoot it straight out to the back onto a white piece of paper, and then put a nice cardboard or some kind of filter on the end of your telescope to block out to get a nice shadow. And you just beam the sun straight through your telescope onto the sheet and focus it. And you get a beautiful white light view of sunspots in basically black and white. You don't get the color with that. But it's nice. It's just not good for your telescope because it gets really hot at the focus stage. And it's also very dangerous if kids are around because they try to look through it and then they'll burn out their eyes. So if you're by yourself, that was the way I used to do it for like $100 telescope. And it was pretty easy to set up because you can just use the the simple shadow of the telescope as a guide for when you're lined up. You know, if it's skewed this way or skewed that way, you just adjust it till you get a nice clean circle, and pretty soon the sun pops out on your sheet or your piece of paper, and you can study the sun for a while without any fancy filters. You just don't get the nice color view, and you can't really study it too well or get very good pictures of it because it's reflected on, it's basically, cast onto a piece of paper, and as you know, if you take a picture of a piece of paper and zoom in, you get the damn texture of the paper. So it's not a very clean image. Um, but yeah, it worked pretty well. It was my way of doing solar for a long time until I started going to the scope events at the club was running with the fancy ass filters. And the white light filter works out very well. So I have a big white light filter for my 12-inch reflector, and I was going to buy one for my new astrograph, which, probably not too much, probably $250 or something like that for one of those. Um, and that way I could actually do simultaneous viewing as an event, either on a stream or a public event. One is doing white light and one is doing H alpha, so people can see both at the same time. That's the goal anyway. So one of these days. So that is pretty much all I wanted to go over. I don't want to make the stream too long tonight, but as you guys saw, there's some pretty cool stuff from NASA and those apps. So stuff online, stuff on your phone, stuff on your iPad, whatever you want to do. Of course, all these apps also work. These websites work on the iPad as well, because iPad or even if you have a Surface Pro, if you want to use Windows tablet, would be fine. Certainly, have plenty of horsepower there, and you can do the pinch zoom and all the little tricks, touch navigation. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have any other comments or whatever in the chat, yeah, the filter stuff you got to be really careful. I mentioned this in a previous stream. Department store telescopes. This is so crazy. They used to sell 60 millimeter refractors with a solar filter that goes inside an eyepiece. There is no blocking at the objective. Not at all. There's no heat rejection, no light rejection. It goes straight to the damn eyepiece. And that stupid little filter was supposed to save your eyes from total burnout. And over time, the glass gets hot and will probably crack, or the filter material fades or something. And one day you're looking, and all of a sudden, hey, oh, it's bright, and then it's no longer anything because you're blind. So, and I think they sold those for years, decades. I don't think they do it anymore. They probably had enough incidents where some kid probably got permanently blinded from it, or a dumb adult who didn't know what he was doing. It's the same idea. Everyone knows the magnifying glass thing where you burn ants. It's just even more intense than that because it's 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 even more magnified by the telescope than your magnifying glass. And goodbye retina. It's very, very bad. So I knew I was potentially damaging my scope doing that projection method, but I didn't care because I mostly used it for bird watching at that point and for solar. I didn't use it for night stuff anymore because I actually had access to club scopes and was just getting ready to buy a scope back then. That was a nice reflector. But man, it's so many stupid things these companies have done. So many potential lawsuits, and some people got permanently damaged from that stuff at some point. And it's only one eye, but it doesn't matter. You've that eye is now fried for good. Very bad. So last I heard, they're not putting those in kits anymore. which is good. Probably because they're just saving money by putting less stuff in there, but really probably doing it just to save their butts from any kind of lawsuits. Although they probably have some clause that says you didn't read the fine print. It said, "Do not look at the sun at your own risk," or whatever. So typical nonsense that lawyers put together. But anyway, that's about it. Let me check the chat again and see if you guys got anything else here. Um, yeah, as long as you have a filter on the end of the scope and it's like reinforced aluminized mylar, or it's special coated glass rated the same as the aluminized mylar. Some people use welder's glass actually for stuff, even for eclipses. There's a certain number of welder's glass that is so damn dark that you can only see the sun through it, or a spark from a weld, or a flame, the the bright flames that are from the weld. So that was a popular thing for a long time before these aluminized mylar glasses started coming out for eclipses. Um, People using welder's glass. It was like number 14 welder's glass. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a certain number, very, very dark welder's glass. Um, but even that's kind of taking a risk because it's cutting down a significant amount of light, but is it enough to stop damage completely? Who knows? I'm sure somebody did analysis at one point and discovered that it safely blocks all the wavelengths, but you never know. I mean, it certainly blocks infrared because I did an experiment when I bought my thermal camera, which is really interesting. It's one of those FLIR cameras, and it uses zinc selenide lenses because they're transparent to infrared wavelengths, whereas normal glass is not. And I did an experiment. I was doing some photography and video at the zoo I used to work at on part time, and getting shots of the animals in thermal and infrared and visible light all at the same time. I built a rig to fire off 3 cameras at once. And I'm walking around the zoo, and I walked in front of the glass for the bobcat cage at the time, and it went from wire mesh to glass to wire mesh, and as I'm going across, you can see the animals in all 3 cameras, and then suddenly you get to the glass, and the thermal is just a reflection of me, but everything else is going through the infrared black and white camera was still getting some photons coming through the glass, but the thermal, this very specific wavelength of thermal, was totally reflected by the glass, which is funny when they show, like, night vision stuff in movies, which is supposed to be normal night vision, not the normal green, and they use thermal, and they're, like, looking through windows, and, like, yeah, that doesn't work that way. It's Hollywood style stuff, and I would have known that had I not done the footage myself. So anyway, yeah, it's interesting all this weird stuff with optics and what blocks what and different kinds of filters and stuff, so perhaps the welder's glass was very safe, but I still like the aluminized mylar. It's I used that for many years, and it's super cheap. You can put it in a nice little case, put it in your bag, and always have it handy. Of course, this time I forgot it. It was stuck in a box somewhere during the eclipse on Saturday, so I had to improvise with, leaves on the trees, pinhole camera style pictures of the eclipse, which is just super ghetto. So, anyway, what are you gonna do? Can't plan for everything. So, anyway, thanks for you guys hanging out. Only got 2 of you tonight, looks like, but, hopefully we get some replays and some comments and stuff. Everyone feel free to ask questions, comment, whatever you want. Um, I'll be doing some more telescope streams at some point when the weather's good and I have some time. Also have to get back to my microscope streams. I haven't done those for a couple weeks. Got to get some more samples, but so yeah, good times. I'll definitely get that solar thing. Hopefully in the next month or so. Start doing some solar streams as well. White light filter and H alpha. I think people enjoy that, and it's fun too because sometimes you look at the sun, it's totally boring. This it's not a solar minimum. It's just you just happen to catch the sun at its certain area of the sun that's boring because the whole damn thing rotates in like 9 hours. So during the course of a day, you can look at it several times and get a totally different view. But quite often, I just go once and see what I can see, and then go back another day and see what I can see. But theoretically, you could set up the scopes and look at it like 4 different times of the day and get a completely different view of the sun almost. If you're not finding stuff, if the spots are sparse or prominences are boring or whatever. Because I've seen some amazing activity in the past, and I haven't kept up with the sun much lately. So I don't know if we're in a max or in a min right now. I don't remember. I think it's an 11-year cycle, but again, that's also the cobwebs in my brain. So I'd have to double check. Um, so yeah, good stuff. Thanks again, guys, and I'll be talking to Neil about that stuff. That'd be fun to check it out. And appreciate everyone watching live, watch on replay, whatever. And I will see you all later. Peace out. Keep watching the skies.